Hey, my name is Jeff from Mental Health Resource.
And I'm Keta with the StraitJacket Podcast. And today we have one of my favorite people on. Our guest name is Julie. She is a woman with such an incredible testimony and story. We are so grateful to have you here today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
A little hair flip there. Like, love the introduction. Well, it's just the truth. So you doing good? You feeling good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing good.
So tell us a little bit about, just jumping in, a little bit about Julie growing up.
Let's see. I am the youngest of my family.
Okay.
I'm the baby. And I hold that with honor.
Yeah. I'm a baby too.
I have two older brothers and a single mom growing up. And my dad was there, you know, Christmas and the good things and stuff like that. And but mostly it was my mom and my brothers growing up. We had a super close relationship. All of us, you know, loved each other. My brother Jeff is like exactly a year older than me. So we grew up like two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
I was one of the guys. Mm-hmm. I was like, my brother used to say, like, she's like a chick or like a dude with tits.
Yeah.
And then my oldest brother did his own thing growing up. He was like a punk rocker. We always looked up to him. We liked his music. You know, he's a skater. Grew up around a lot of skateboarding and stuff like that with my brothers. Got into trouble.
What area are you from?
Orange County my whole life. Buena Park mostly. Still live there today.
You still live in Buena Park?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I moved back.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay. What kind of trouble were you getting in and how did that happen?
Oh my God. Me and my brother Jeff, I mean, at a super young age, would light fires, you know, on roofs.
A little fire starter. Just a little pyromaniac.
And then we would like, you know, break into schools and run around and, you know, run from cops. We were just menaces, you know, ding dong ditch. We had so much fun. We had so much fun growing up. Like back in the 90s, those are the days, you know?
It's a very latchkey situation, like not enough supervision going on because single mothers tend to have a difficult time, you know, raising kids and supporting kids.
Yeah. Oh, dude, totally.
It's a two-person job.
We grew up super poor. You know, my mom did her best with what she knew and what she had. And, you know, we were really close with our cousins and grandmas and stuff like that. So we did have a good childhood growing up. But I think I always had like daddy issues at a super young age.
Yeah, for sure.
I think my dad left. I think I was 5. And like, I remember my mom telling me, you know, mommy and daddy are going to get a divorce. And I was like, what is that? You know? And she's like, it's okay. You'll be with mommy. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I was fine.
Yeah.
You know, but the absence of him, I think, got me looking for love in all the wrong places at a super young age, you know? And plus, I had this body at like 12.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was always like that sex object.
Yeah.
You know? To older men and stuff, which was not good at times.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for it starting so young, it's hard to like differentiate between what's normal and what is not. Because on one hand, like attention is a currency, you know what I mean? Like it feels good, you like it. It's not something that anybody's like, oh no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not good. I mean, I guess some people might.
Some people, yeah.
But
definitely
you know,
not me.
Yeah.
I was like, give me more.
Yeah.
I love attention.
But then it's also like dangerous.
Yeah. Super dangerous. I found myself in a lot of situations that were dangerous. I was always that super wild, wanted, you know, front row person. You know, I wanted to be always looked at, always, you know, admired, always, you know, praised. If not praised, then I would get in trouble. And that would be my way of being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You thrived on attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
For many years.
So take us to, you're getting in trouble, you're running amok. Are you getting in trouble with the law in your youth?
No.
No, you were just kind of getting away, skating.
I always got away. Never been in trouble with the law. One time I was in the back of a police car because me and my brother were throwing like roof shingles over this wall in this pool.
Okay.
And they called the cops on us and I was terrified. And the cops came, put us in the car and made us jump in the pool and take all the shingles out.
It seemed like a natural consequence.
I think I was like 7.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was always terrified of the police. I think when I was a little girl, I would like pick flowers and this lady's like, I'm calling the police. And to me, the police meant I'm going to jail or I'm going away from my mom. I was always super attached to my mom, like probably like unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like always attached, always worried about my mom. And so I never liked the police. I was always terrified of them.
Did you have experiences with the police that led you to believe that? Is it something that you saw?
So I grew up, my mom has 2 sisters, but her one sister, Aunt Kathy, was always this like bar lady, you know, motorcycle Harley lady, always had like different boyfriends. And she was my favorite aunt. I love all my aunts, but I loved her like so much. And, she would, you know, get in fights or stuff and the cops would come, you know, so I would have like experiences like that. Her, my mom fight. You know, I remember one time as a little girl, my mom leaving her house after like a party and my mom was crying on the freeway. My mom got pulled over and I remember just feeling like terrified, like my mom was going away forever, you know, and she didn't get arrested or anything. She wasn't drinking or driving, but I think she was just so upset driving that she was driving erratically maybe.
Right.
But
Done that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, emotions can be a drug as well.
Yeah. I think I grew up with a lot of chaos around, you know, addiction runs in every aspect of my family. My dad got sober when I was 5 and that's when he left. And my aunt was an alcoholic, you know, and then, you know, we grew up like that.
Yeah, was your other parent, your mom, in addiction as well?
My mom never showed signs of it until I was a teenager. And then she got addicted to meth.
Okay.
For about 4 years.
Mm.
Yeah. So at I think 12 years old, that's when my life started changing.
Take me through that.
So I had a best friend and her mom and my mom, we wanted them to meet. And I found out later on in life that her mom showed my mom meth. Mm. And at 12 years old, my mom started doing meth. And then she just went weird and crazy. And then at 13, I used meth for my first time.
Who'd you use it with?
So I grew up in this neighborhood called Highland Greens in Buena Park. And I don't want to say this if my dad hears it. This was like a pivotal moment in my life. But I was always that super hyper kid and they tried to keep sweets away from me. And it was my 13th birthday and I found out it was my stepmom who gave me half of an orange. I always thought it was my dad with a candle in it saying, I don't need the cake. That's my memory of it. And I remember going home and I was sad and I was crying in my neighborhood and this drug dealer named JD, who was 25, you know, why are you crying? And I was like, I'm fat. And then my memory of it is like, I could help you with that. And he showed me meth, you know, and I loved it. And I was already drinking. I was already smoking weed at this time. I think drinking my first time was at 12. Smoking weed was 12 with my brother Jeff. And when I started meth, I remember showing it to my brother Jeff, and he did it with me one time, and he was like, I don't like that stuff. I was like, I love it. You know, meth in the 90s.
Why?
Was
How?
amazing.
How do you not love it? Yeah.
Meth in the 90s was amazing. And so at 13, that guy JD took my virginity. I was a full-blown tweaker. My mom was on meth. We had this neighborhood guy named Andre. He was just a neighborhood trash digger guy. And he was giving it to me and my mom. But my mom didn't know I was using. We never used together or anything, but we were on that same path at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, at 13, getting my, you know, virginity taken, starting, you know, drugs, I was just off, you know. Yeah, that was wild. I was stealing cars, never got busted. I think it's because I looked like a little girl, you know.
Yeah, you were a little girl.
I know,
though,
yes.
Julie. You were a little girl, you know.
You know, those years growing up in there was a lot of, put myself in a lot of positions to get hurt a lot. And I went to a house party one time. I'm going to talk about some deep stuff right now.
That's fine.
And, you know, at this house party, I I was drinking, and I was probably high on meth, and I was drugged. And I remember waking up, and I was like 15 years old, you know, beat up next to, you know, butt naked next to these men I didn't know, and I had no memory. And I remember calling my best friend at the time saying, oh my God, I think something happened to me last night. She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, look at me. And I feel like something happened to me down there. And a few weeks later, she found out that I was videotaped and raped by 3 different men. And then about a month later, I found out I was pregnant. Yeah. And I never had memory of it, though, which is good. I think God protected me from that. Yeah. Or like it was such trauma that my mind just completely erased it. Yeah.
Locked it away somewhere deep down.
And at that moment, you know, I mean, at this time, at 15 years old, going back to 13, I've done every single drug there is except heroin. I've never touched heroin, right? Crack, I've tried that. I loved that. Like, thank God the people I was using it with didn't give me more.
Yeah.
Because I was like pounding on the door, you know, full blown addict already at 13 years old, you know? Yeah. And when that happened to me and I found out I was pregnant, I went to have an abortion. And that was because I didn't know. I had a boyfriend at the time. I was promiscuous. You know, going back to my dad leaving and me looking for love in all the wrong places, I thought if I gave it away, that means they love me and they're going to stay. You know, I had a really hard time with people using me because I believe, what do you mean? Like, why aren't they calling me back or whatever? You know, I was so naive.
Yeah.
And so when I found out I was pregnant, my mom, my aunt, the Aunt Kathy I was talking about, took me on a bus because my mom didn't have a car. We grew up super poor.
Yeah.
And I went to have an abortion. Well, when I got there, they said I was 4 months pregnant. And when I was inside the room, they had the ultrasound thing facing me, and I seen the baby's hand like this. And I'm like, is that my baby? And the lady like turned it real quick. And I heard God say, even at that young age, like, that's your baby. Like, that's your blessing, right? And so I made a decision in my mind, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, you know? And my mom on the bus ride home, she goes, do you want to keep the baby? And I said, yeah. You know, and I did. She's 27 today. And she saved my life.
Can you imagine, like, what, just the intricate design of that? Like, they're not supposed to show you the screen. You're not supposed to see that. You're too far along.
Right.
Like, there's just so many things that, you know, blips along the road that if you wouldn't have seen that hand of that baby's hand go across the screen, like, would you have made a different decision? And now you have a beautiful daughter that
I probably would have gone through with it not knowing, right? Not being educated on how I would feel after. I never thought that, you know?
Yeah.
And I know, like, to this day, if I would have gone through it, I would have been dead. Yeah. Like, for sure. I was headed down the worst path, you know? And I always tell my daughter she saved my life that day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I can imagine, but I can also imagine it being incredibly difficult walking through a situation where you've been violated and now you have a baby.
Yeah. And not knowing who her biological dad is.
Right. And you believed at that time that it was from that incident.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind when all of that? Was it just overwhelmed by love for this child?
I think so. I didn't know what I was going to do. I don't know how we were going to support. But my mom, like, all the struggles she has in her life. And my mom got sober, like, before that.
Good job, Mom.
Yeah. My mom got sober. She only used for, like, 4 years, but she got sober. And, you know, her love for me was like, I'll you know, I got you. You're on my side, and I'll take care of you. I'll walk you through. And she taught me everything on how to be a mom. And she'll be careful when you have the baby in your arm. Don't turn corners hard because her head's sticking out, you know, and like simple things. Her first bath, you know, my mom taught me all that stuff, you know. Yeah.
But I can imagine, like, you can't quite shut off that switch.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. How did you deal with some of the emotions that were coming up about that? Do you think it caused you to, I know you didn't get sober at that point. There was a long road ahead there.
Well, actually, when I gave birth to my daughter, I was a month later, I turned 16, and I was good.
Yeah.
I didn't use, I didn't drink. I was a full-time parent. I was a present mom. I was a good mom. I loved that little girl. And I think all the emotions or fear or, the hurt in my heart, what happened to me, the trauma, right? I stuffed it.
Yeah. Okay.
I completely stuffed it. And everything else went into her, And so I don't think I really had any negative when she was young because I stuffed it.
Yeah.
I think for many years. I probably should have had therapy.
Yeah, but we don't know. And you're a baby. You were still a child. Your frontal lobe wasn't even developed yet,
Right.
and you have a child that you're having to take care of. So it's like that survival instinct kicks in. Your
Right.
primal instincts kick
Right.
in. And like you can't even, you don't have time nor the ability to explore any of that.
Right.
So that's probably the only option that you
I
have.
think what was one of the hardest things is losing all my friends because I'm a mom now,
Yeah.
And my mom wasn't that type of mom that she's like, oh, I'll babysit so you can go have fun. No. She's like,
It's your baby.
it's your baby.
That's your baby.
And I remember one time I was, I think 17, my daughter was about a year. My mom did babysit one time so I can go down to the beach. And I was with a girlfriend and she got in a car accident. We got in a really bad car accident. And like if my daughter was in the car, the whole back was smashed, right?
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like, what am I doing? There's been so many moments like that in my life. And as you hear my story, they always get worse. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, those are warning shots.
Yeah. God shots, right?
Yeah.
He's like,
Like, wake up.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Right.
But so you were doing good. You were raising this little girl. Where was the turning point that led you back into your use?
Many years later.
Okay.
So, I met there. So at about 17, I've known my ex-husband since I was 13. His name's Dano. And he was my first love. And we had a son. I was 18 when I had my son. And we got married. We had 2 little kids. And that was my identity, was mom.
Yeah.
And, my son Dylan, my daughter Natalie were my life. And I was a good mom. I was present. If I was drinking, he wouldn't drink.
Yeah.
But my drinking never got out of control when we were younger, and if he was drinking, which mostly he was drinking, I wouldn't drink because somebody always needed to be okay for the kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump forward about 23 years old. When I was about 23, that best friend that I had since I was super young, and my husband had a 1.5 year affair. My son was 3. My daughter was 5. I was 23. And I think that was one of the moments of my life that destroyed me.
How did you find out?
He told me.
Was it like a I'm going to leave you situation?
It was so weird because he was crying and crying. And I would have taken a bullet in my head knowing like they would never do that to me.
Right.
I trusted with everything. And I was like, what's wrong with you? And, he was drinking. And he's like, I've been sleeping with her. And I was like, oh, my God. And at that moment, I'm like, do you love her? And he didn't answer me. And I was like, all right,
That
we're
means
done.
yes. Yeah.
So I took me and my 2 kids. We moved in with my best friend, Jim, who I've known my entire life, for a couple months. But I didn't know how to live without my husband at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know how. He was the provider. I didn't work. I didn't know how to be a grown-up without him. I didn't know how to stand on my own 2 feet. I didn't even know who I was as a woman. I was mom. That's it. And we went back after a couple months and, you know, for 6 more years. And those 6 years is when I started getting bad, but not real bad, just bad.
Manageably, progressively worse.
Right.
Yeah. And what were your drugs of choice at this time?
Alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah. Once a year, I would do meth here and there.
Yeah.
But
just on Christmas.
yeah. You know, my birthday.
My birthday, yeah.
Let's get high. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a lot of, you know, he was very verbally abusive. I was just this fat bitch and stupid bitch and, you know, F off and, you know, things like that. And, you know, my kids would see this and hear this, you know, but I would try to be like just this best mom and put the happy face on and do fun things with them and just try to, you know, be present in their lives the best I can. But my drinking did get really bad. You know, at this time, I would be hungover all the time. If I wasn't hungover, I was drunk.
Yeah.
My kids knew not to drink out of my cup, you know, because it was alcohol. And I would be driving with them like this and, you know, never plastered driving with them, but drunk, for sure. You know, how are they not, how did I not get in trouble? Or how are they not dead? You know what I mean? Yeah. And you hear moms that have crashed with their kids, you know, drunk. And, you know, so, but this wasn't my mind. My mind was I was hurt, you know, and this was my way of getting over that hurtness. Was the only tool I knew was to drink.
To numb it.
Right.
Yeah.
To numb it completely.
It's a great anesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 2011, I had this friend named Cinnamon, and me and Cinnamon would both just complain about our husbands. We'd drink together. Our kids would play. They'd be in the backyard playing all day while me and her would be inside taking shots or whatever, and we would just drink. And we had this great idea to leave our husbands. And I was like, dude, that's a great idea. And so we went down to the divorce office and we filed for divorce. Our divorce numbers were 1 digit apart. We got divorces together. I moved out. I was like, this is my chance. I'm going to be so much better now that I don't have him. I'm going to do so much better. And at this time I was working for this, I was a caregiver for 12 years and I was working for this assisted living facility. And, you know, I'd go to work hungover, probably still drunk from the night before.
Right.
I remember they had wine like for the elderly people, and me and coworker would be in the back drinking the wine, you know, so I'd be drunk at work. I remember these old ladies would like tell on me, like, she smells like alcohol. I'd be like, oh, I thought we were friends. How dare you? You know, but
just blame it on their Alzheimer's.
Right. They're crazy. I don't know.
They've got dementia. I wouldn't trust
And
them.
they did have dementia.
Yeah.
They were absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
You know, there was this one time though that was a horrible incident that happened, and I blamed myself for many years. There was this time I went to a house party. You know, I'm divorced from my husband. I live in this tiny little studio that's probably as big as this studio.
Yeah.
And with my 2 kids, my 2 dogs, we had a hamster, and in Huntington Beach. And I went to a house party. I guess my ex-husband had the kids at this time, and I picked up some meth that night. So I would be okay to go to work the next day. So I had like a pipe in my bra with some meth in it, and I was drunk and I got to work. And how we had walkie-talkies, right?
Yeah.
And I get to work and I go to my first client. I'm, you know, giving him a shower, and one of the ladies, hey, can you check on room da-da-da-da-da, whatever it was. I'd be like, oh, I'm giving blah, blah, blah a shower. Can somebody, you know, get them? And nobody replied back. So I got him done, got him situated in his chair, and I go towards this lady's room who she was calling because they had like these pins.
Yeah.
And so I go to the room, and one of the ladies from the graveyard shift, she's like, oh, she just wants the newspaper. And I'm like, oh, are you getting it? And she said, yeah. So I'm like, okay, perfect. This is my perfect opportunity to go to the 3rd floor bathroom and smoke my meth.
Yeah.
So I could feel better because I feel hungover. And as I'm up there in my 3rd floor bathroom, the lady keeps beeping her number. And I ignore it because I'm thinking that other lady's going back to get her. And so I'm up there smoking meth. And then I get a call from my supervisor, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm in the bathroom. And she goes, she's dead. And I'm like, what? She goes, get down here. And I go down there and I was like, oh my God. Like, she was gone. She's like, give her CPR. I'm like, she's gone.
Yeah.
Like, there's no bringing her back. She had a terminal illness. You know, I didn't cause her death. I know that today. But because of my neglectfulness,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I could have saved her. She was calling, you know, and I blamed myself. I would have dreams that I was like giving her showers as she's gone, you know, past, and dressing her. And oh my God, it was awful. You know, after that, I pretty much lost my job for being drunk on the job.
Yeah.
And, you know, lost my apartment. You know, my drinking, I mean, there was periods of that time in my life where, you know, my daughter could tell you now, I was drunk the entire time. I think it was like I was finally free.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to deal with it. You know, my ex-husband was very, you know, possessive and, you know, controlling. And I never really had my own reins, you know. My kids were getting older. They can fend for themselves, you know. But that was a hard time. My best friend, Sarah, is still my best friend today. She let me and my kids move in her house. We lived in like her back room on a king size bed.
Yeah.
And I drank all her alcohol. You know, it was just like, this is about 2012. I had this phone number in my purse, or in my phone. Her name was Julie AA. My oldest brother gave me her number. And there was this time, it was January 25th, 2012. It was about 10 in the morning. I was hammered with my best friend, Jim. We always got drunk together. And I was crying because my best friend did this, my husband did this, you know. And I stood up to go get some more alcohol, and this feeling came over me from like head to toe. And I heard God say as loud as it can be, your whole life has been a pity party. And I stopped, and the obsession to drink was gone.
Really?
And I'm screaming, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And I'm crying. My friend's like, we can go get another bottle. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. And I called that lady, Julie, in my phone. And I said, hi, you don't know me, but my brother, Gary, gave me your number. And I'm done. I'm done drinking. She goes, oh, come to a meeting right now. I'm like, no, I'm hammered. I'll come tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so January 26, 2012 was my first sobriety date. I didn't pick it. God did.
Yeah.
And
You got let off.
right.
You got let off the elevator. Yeah.
Right. And it was insane because it was so easy to not drink. Like, I would still go to bars and not drink.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird. You know, I started going to AA meetings all the time with Julie Kobler. Beautiful, beautiful soul.
Beautiful soul.
And I asked her, will you be my sponsor? She was, okay, this lady, Julie, she would light up the room
She
with
had
her
best smile. Best smile.
And like, she was so goofy and funny, and we had the same name. And so she became my first sponsor. And so that time in sobriety, you know, I still didn't know who Julie was. I still identified as mom, right? I didn't have my own voice yet, but I loved recovery. You know, I started going to meetings every day, and I started, you know, only co-ed meetings.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't read because you don't read in bars. I didn't know how to read. And I'd be like, oh no, I don't read. I'll just sit here and look at all the guys.
I can listen, you know.
Yeah, I'll listen.
A spectator.
Yeah. And I would share like probably bullshit, you know,
Yeah.
poor pity party me, poor me, you know, my best friend did this. My ex-husband did this, you know, whatever. But I got sober, and I stayed sober for 26 days shy of my 2 years. 26 days shy of my 2 years, you know, and I always tell people like in treatment or when I do panels, you know, the choices you make today will affect the rest of your life, whether they're good choices or bad choices. Right. And when when I got sober, I was about 2 months sober, and I started working in a treatment place, and I met this guy, right? And I was like, oh, that's my knight in shining armor. That's
Rehab romance.
Yep. And he had like 6 years sober. I had 2 months. He had a motorcycle. I'm like, perfect. Right. And so we started dating, and I don't even know how long, super quick. I, moved me and my kids in with him. Worst decision I ever made for my son. My son is in his addiction now. He's on the street. And my son was in the 6th grade, but it was junior high in the school he was going to. And when I moved him in to that guy's house, it was elementary. So he had to go back to elementary. And I remember my son being upset, saying, my son was like 12, saying, you're just going to cheat on my mom. You're just going to hurt her, And I was like, Dylan, no, he won't. He won't, Dylan knew.
Yeah.
He knew, that relationship ended. And I chose to leave that relationship, but it ended, to where he was, the guy was just being who he is,
Yeah.
And I think I was just wanting to be loved so bad that I was willing to do. He didn't beat me or call me stupid fat bitch,
Right.
But he was, shooting heroin and getting his hookers on Craigslist, But I chose to leave that relationship, and
Were you still sober at that time?
I was still sober at that time.
Okay.
And that was like my first big girl choice. I think that at that moment, and my daughter was like so proud of me. She was like, Mom, that's right. Get it. And my daughter's always been like my rock, you got this, Mom. I'm proud of you, And so me and her moved out. We got an apartment with my good friend Rachel in Huntington Beach. At this time, my daughter was in high school, I think just starting high school. My son at this time lived with his dad because that was the first time ever I didn't have both of my kids. My son wanted to live with his dad at this time. He didn't want to live with my ex-boyfriend at the time. And and I allowed that happen. I'm like, sure, go ahead. So we had this little apartment, and it was cute, and life was good. I was struggling, but we got a lot of our food from his place, food bank, and, would just meal prep. And, I had a good job at the time. I was working behavioral health at Winstone Behavioral Health. And my daughter says that was one of the best times in her life, and, I was attending church. I was going to meetings. But at this time, I think I was really empty. And when I would go to meetings, I was starting to get angry. Yeah. I stopped calling my sponsor. I stopped, going to meetings because I was like, oh, there's a bunch of bullshit,
Yeah.
I stopped doing the things that were wanting me to do. And January 1st, 2014, I made that choice that affected my life forever.
Yeah.
And this is when, my life got real bad. I can say I was an alcoholic drug addict since I was 13 years old, but there's been periods of, manageability through it. But at this time, January 1st, I took in the new year with, not a shot with, sparkling cider or whatever it was. And then I seen my cousin Christina was there, and she was like my big sister growing up. I looked up to her. She was the best big sister, and we were super close, but we didn't talk for many, many years. And that day is the first day I seen her. And I was like, you know what? Give me a shot. And remember, in 2012, God took that from me, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to not fucking feel.
Yeah.
Like, I was so devastated because right after I broke up with that guy, he got into a relationship, and I just wanted my life back. I just wanted this like unit back that didn't ever exist.
Right.
But in my head, it existed.
Yeah.
And, I took a shot, and I remember taking that shot and feeling nothing. And I was mad. I was like, are you kidding me? And then I looked at my cousin again. I'm like, you're tweaking. Give me a line.
Yeah.
And those words right there completely changed my life forever.
Yeah.
You know, and she gave me a line. Probably about the next day, I was smoking meth.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I had this guy who would, in the beginning, right? And I had this apartment still with my daughter and my friend who's sober. And I was sneaking, you know, meth. And this guy would sell me a new pipe filled, and that would last me a week.
Yeah.
And every week I would get a new pipe filled with meth, and that would last me a week. And I was hiding it, and then I was drinking here and there, hanging out with my cousin a lot, and, you know, going to work, spun out of my mind, and
Still maintaining.
Yeah. The little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after a couple weeks of that, I'm like, I need a bag, you know, I need this. And then, you know, it was, you know, within 2 months.
Off to the races.
I lost it all. Or I gave it all away.
Were you using IV?
Never. I've done it twice. Don't tell my mom.
Okay.
Sorry, Mom.
Well, she knows now.
So within 2 months, so I had a Dodge Magnum, right, car, had a good job with the behavioral health. I started getting involved with this guy, you know, because it's always the guys.
Yeah.
It's always the guys because
There's
feel
a pattern.
empty. I don't know who Julie is. I don't know what my favorite color is. I don't know what I'm supposed to act like. I don't know what I'm supposed to like. He has to tell me, you know, if I was skinnier, he'd love me more. If I was blonde, I remember bleaching my whole head for that guy I was with before because he liked blonde women, right? If I was skinnier, he'd love me more. If I was blonder, he'd love me more. If I was less loud, he'd love me more. You know what I mean? I was just trying to change who I was for you.
If you were less you.
If I was less me, you know? And when I started using meth again after years, right? Since I was a teenager, haven't been addicted to meth.
Yeah.
And the meth is so different today than it was in the 90s. You have to like use more and more and more. You have to keep getting more and more and more, you know? It was just so bad. So I had this Dodge Magnum. I, you know, pull out of my house one time to go somewhere and it stalled in the middle of the street. I had it towed to a mechanic. The mechanic, you know, tells me to get over there right away. He puts a flashlight in the gas tank and there's a screwdriver and sugar in my gas tank. So somebody in my life, you know, deliberately totaled my car. I got my car taken away. Of course I wasn't paying rent. My apartment, you know, my friend Rachel already moved out at this time. I had these other weird people living with me. And, you know, probably a week later, I lost my apartment, you know, sold all my stuff. My kids moved in. My daughter moved in with her dad. And I was homeless for the first time in my life, like on the street homeless. And in my head, I was like, now I'm free. Now I'm free, you know. And it took, you know, from 2014 to 2017, you know, so much has happened.
Yeah.
You know, the depths of hell, like complete the depths of hell.
Walk me through one of your lowest moments.
I think the absolute, so I got involved with this guy and we had fun in the beginning. He got me a fixie, pink bicycle. So we'd go fixie riding all the time. You know, he didn't know I was using, so I'd always have like my pipe in my bra and, you know, and then I would think like, he has to be using too because he would be up with me all night.
Yeah.
And then he would go to work, you know, so he had a job. He would, you know, pay for whatever, you know, I was just this homeless girl.
Yeah.
I stayed with him sometimes and then I was on the streets. You know, there was one time he kicked me out of his house. I only had underwear on. And he kicked me out in the middle of the night, you know, and it's in Stanton, right? Catella and Beach Boulevard, which is a gnarly area. And I'm like practically butt naked in the middle of the street, you know, and I'm just like huddling, and this guy on a bike rolls up and he's like, "Hey, you got a cigarette?" I was like, "You got a shirt?"
Right.
And then I ended up going to his house, you know, how am I not dead?
Right.
You know, going to his house. He became one of my dealers, you know, a new dealer, you know, and it's crazy the people you meet, right? There was this guy, I called him my street uncle, and this guy, Darren, he was an older man. He had a house that was his dad's. His dad was a hoarder. So it was like my happy place. I would go scavenging, hunting. I would
my
find
gosh.
treasures. Oh my God. I would find so many treasures in this house. And he was, I think, the first and only male in my life who wasn't like trying to get at me. Yeah. He was very respectful.
Yeah.
He had these 2 dogs, but this house had no ceiling, had rats bigger than my dog.
Yeah.
You know, but I loved him, you know, and he loved me too. My street name, everybody would call me Juliet because I didn't want to be known as Julie. And, you know, so there was just this, you know, just this ongoing circle of running the streets. You know, there was a time, these moments, and I talked about it a little earlier, that I would say, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. So this is one of the hard times. There was, I was with this guy named Spider. Can't even tell you what he
There's always some guy named Spider in the mix when you're doing meth. Every single time.
So he's like, "Oh, come with me. We'll go get high." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's go." You know, and he takes me down a sewage, like the tunnels. And right on Golden West and Garden Grove Boulevard. He takes me down there. We meet this guy named Bunny. And this guy named Bunny had heels and fishnet stockings on.
Okay, fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I get down there, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And I think that was God saying, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
How did I get here?
How did I get here? Like, what am I doing? You know, I'm a mom. Nope, I haven't seen my kids. You know, oh, I'm coming. I'm on my way. You know, 2-3 days later, I might show up.
Yeah.
My daughter at this time wanted nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
You know, she was so angry. She was so mad. Like, what have you become? You know? Yeah. And my son was young, and, you know, he would look at me with those eyes, and I'm going to get better. I promise. I'm going to do better. I'm going to get better. And, you know, I just didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this guy named Bunny, I was down in his, in the tunnel in his tent, and we were getting high.
In his sewer tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I stayed. I stayed for a long time. And that became one of my spots, you know? And then I got a storage unit, which I was living in for a minute. And, you know, just all this crazy stuff. And, so there was a time, I'm still dating that guy, Steve. And, there was this time where, this kid named Mikey said, "Hey, you can do your laundry and go hang out this guy's house. Like, they're nice, they're cool." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, just get your stuff together. You can go." And I thought he was going with, but he didn't. He's like, "No, I have to take care of something. Just go. They're cool. They're cool." Okay. Well, again, I woke up, you know, I was robbed, raped, you know, and they're screaming at me to get out of their house. I thought I was going to get killed, you know. And I think at that night I had my boyfriend at the time got me a motel on Beach and Ball, like between Ball and Orange.
Yeah.
And we're in that motel, and I remember being butt naked, sitting Indian style, and my boyfriend at the time was just like, you deserved it, you know, just screaming at me. And I remember thinking about my daughter and like how mad she was. And like how I'm just a fuck up, you know? And I'm going to cry.
That's okay.
And just incapable of being loved. Like, I just wanted to fucking be something or someone, you know? And I was going about it all the wrong way. And it's crazy when you're stuck in the disease, how you try with that thinking, right? Get out, and just nothing helps because you're so stuck in your bondage in the chains, right?
Yeah.
And at this time I had a switchblade brass knuckle knife, and I made the decision to end my life. And I was sitting butt naked Indian style, and I took this knife as hard as I could, and I stabbed myself in my leg. I knew my main artery was there. And the reason why I knew is my brother Jeff was always getting hurt as a kid, and he cut that main artery on accident as a kid. And I stabbed myself as hard as I could. And I remember the moment I stabbed myself, I go, "What are you doing?" And I pulled it out, and there was just blood everywhere. And the boyfriend I had at the time was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going to die." And he like runs downstairs to his car, and I'm like bleeding out. And I remember like fading in and out of consciousness. And what would wake me up is him screaming, "Come on!" And we're on the 3rd floor, and I had to walk down all those steps like bleeding. I remember sticking my elbow in the wound, and I remember dying. Like, I remember everything going white. I remember hearing God's voice, and he's telling me, like, I remember, like, it's almost like a feeling. Like, I don't remember what he looked like or what he sounded like. It's like a overwhelming feeling, loud as can be. "Are you sure this is what you want?" And I said, "Please don't let me die like this. Wait till I'm better," you know? And I woke up in the hospital, 50-something stitches. They had attached my muscle. I nicked my main artery. Centimeter closer, I would have been completely dead.
Right.
I severed my muscle. I've never seen that boyfriend again. My ex-husband at the time, my son lived with him, lived close to that hospital, let me stay there. And my ex-husband was really trying to get me help, And he's not a super kind person.
Right.
He's just like a rough exterior, but he did love me, he does. And he worked it out with my dad. My dad has 38 years of sobriety for me to move up there. And so that's what they did. I had to learn to walk again. Like, I couldn't like scoot. It was weird because I was missing that entire muscle. And I was coming down. I stabbed myself completely through my leg. And my son was there with me at my dad's house, and I slept for 2 weeks. And I wish I could say that I was sober since then. But it only got worse, And I think it only got worse because I don't think I was willing or able to really give myself a chance. I think I stayed sober 20-something days, and then I met another him.
Yeah. What was the moment that did get you sober?
Oh, God again. So I met another him up in the high desert.
Yeah.
In Apple Valley in the high desert, Victorville, do not do drugs up there.
Sounds sketchy. I'll try not to do drugs anywhere.
Yeah.
Actually, but especially not there now.
It's super weird. So this guy, he would like chain me up in his garage, beat me. I'd beat him. It was just super toxic. The last time he hit me, it was my brother's wedding. And my brother actually stayed up in the high desert for a while, but I would come down, I would go back up, come down, go back up. I would escape from him. And then I figured he's the only one that loves me. I'd go back every freaking time. I'd go back. And then, my brother sent me up to my dad's house to kind of sleep for a few days before their wedding, because they really wanted me to participate.
Yeah.
And I slept for like 6 days. And on the 7th day, I took off. And I went and found him, and we got high. And the next day he was dropping me off. And when he was dropping me off, he said, "I should be going to this wedding with you." I'm like, "I know." And then he hit me so freaking hard. And at that moment, I heard God say, "He's going to kill you."
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Never seen him again.
Yeah.
I went to that wedding. I went back to one of my, street uncle's house or something. And I think at that moment, I was like, dude, I'm so done, I'm so done. I think it took about 2 more months, I remember walking. I had absolutely nothing. I had all these tweaker bags, all this, rocks, wires,
Yep.
crap that we collect.
A radio that's been taken apart, just random. The remotes that you don't know what they belong to. Yeah.
Clothes I found in the trash. I was one of those trash diggers, curb alerts. I'm still not allowed to touch curb alerts because of it.
What is a curb alert?
When people leave stuff on the curb.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Old behavior.
Those were like, woo! Yeah. My funnest times. Like when I got sober, I had a hard time letting that go.
Yeah. The lifestyle.
It was so hard. But, and I was walking and I heard God say, and God always speaks to me.
Yeah.
Like always. And at the weirdest random times, he said, walk to your daughter's house. And that moment is when my life changed, right? I was like, to my daughter's house, do I walk there? She's 19 years old. 18 or 19. She has her own apartment. She has a roommate. She has her own car. She has her own job. And here comes her homeless tweaker mom.
Yeah.
Who she wants nothing to do with.
Right.
She's done. Mm-hmm. And I knocked on her door and I remember her answering and she's like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need a safe place to detox, And she's like, come in. And, the next words out of her mouth, I always share this and I always get emotional. She's like, you use or drink one more time, I'm done. Like, I will disown you as a mom. I am fucking done. And I knew, even in my addict thinking, right? I knew she was serious. And I also knew I have a chance to have her in my life again. Like, if I just do good, I could have her back, and,
God knew you needed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up detoxing on her couch. She would get up and go to work. I'd be sleeping on this little, 2-seater, what do you call it? Like a little couch. And I'd hear her say, love seat. And I'd hear her say, God, she's sleeping so good. I'm just going to let her sleep. Like, I remember those words. And I'd wake up to like, a note. Here, Mom, call these numbers. The Rock Center was on there. Wood Glen, all these numbers were on there. You can do it. I believe in you. Love you. And like, I still have those letters in my big book today.
So it comes back around that she saved your life for a second time.
A second time. And she knows this.
And this is a little girl that you almost didn't have.
Right.
That's some powerful stuff, dude.
Right.
That's really powerful.
Right.
That makes me emotional.
She didn't let me go that easy. It took about a year to earn her trust back.
Yeah, of course, but still.
And I didn't even know if I was going to stay sober. Like, how am I going to do this?
Well, that's why they say just for today. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to worry about the 24 hours ahead of you.
Right. And it's crazy because when I got sober and got clear-minded, right?
Yeah.
My thinking was, I'm incapable of being loved. Incapable. Like, it's just not in the cards for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was or what I liked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have completely stuffed all this trauma I've been through in my life. And slowly but surely, God put me in Gabe's Homes, which is a sober living.
Which I went through as well.
From His Place Church. I mean, this home saved my life, and His Place Church saved my life. Connie.
Mom Connie. Yeah.
So in the beginning of my sobriety, after I detoxed, they got me in treatment. The Hope House.
Yeah.
Never done treatment before in my life. I was there 2 days. I remember the bunk bed was like this close to your face, and I was feeling so like anxious. I got in trouble for saying fuck. And I don't even think anybody heard me, but they had it on video that I said the word fuck. So I had to sit on a bench for like 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, dude, what is this? And then I was like, I'm done. I can't be here. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But I knew like if I left, I'm going back to the street.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to get high, but I can't be here. And I went and told them, I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like, I want to leave. Can I make a phone call? And they're like, no, you have to discharge and then you can make a phone call. I'm like, what? And I was like, can I go pray on it? And I remember going back to my bed and I took a nap and I prayed really hard. And I heard God say, like, leave, And so I was like, okay, I want to leave. A couple hours later, They discharged me. I went across the street and I called Connie. And I was crying, Connie, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't be here, but I don't want to get high. Like, I don't want to be loaded. And she goes, Mom, I just need somebody to give me a chance. And she goes, all right, no boys for 9 months. What?
Yep.
What? No dates, no nothing for 9 months. You know? And I was like, okay, whatever. So I ended up meeting Holly. It was another pivotal moment in my life where that woman saved me, taught me how to be a lady, taught me what is appropriate to wear, because obviously I had no idea. Combat boots, cut off shorts, and no bra was my attire.
Yeah.
And I went into the sober living, and, you know, in the beginning, I still had this addict behavior, addict thinking. I think me and Holly almost threw blows a couple times. I would, you know, tell her to F off. She would say, get out. And I'd be like, wait, I'm sorry. I don't want to leave. Like, I don't want to be homeless again. And, you know, little by little, I started learning who I was. You know, I remember one time, Connie and Holly were there and I asked them something and they're like, no, absolutely not. That's not a good idea. And I told them both to F off. And I, you know, 36 years old, go stomping down the hallway and slam my bedroom door like a freaking child, you know, like the baby of the family. And, you know, those women, they just laughed. And I was like, what are they laughing at? You know, and then slowly but surely, you know, I started going to church. I started going to meetings. I started, you know, getting presented after, I remember one time after a meeting, I'm walking back from the Garden Grove Alano Club. And these guys were like, hey, they pulled out a pipe. You want to get high? And I was like, no, I just left a meeting. And they're like, okay, like, and I probably like look like a crazy freaking woman, right? No. And they were like, okay. And like, I was like, oh my God, I said no.
No, that's, I say this with everybody that I talk to. When you're trying to get sober, you will have every opportunity to get high. It will appear out of nowhere. You'll find dope on the ground. Somebody will be on a bus to get off and be like, hey, you want to smoke some meth?
Oh, yeah.
Like, when you want it, you can never fucking find it.
Right.
But when you're trying to get clean, you will be afforded every opportunity to mess it up, because God is trying to see, are you committed to this? Is this really what you want to do?
Right. And I think those moments that happen to us, and when we say no, we become stronger.
That's where the miracle happens.
Right. We become stronger. So every time I said no, or every time I wanted to leave and didn't, or every time I should apologize and I did, I got stronger and stronger.
Yeah. And now you have how many years?
8 years.
8 years of sobriety. That is truly incredible.
I just celebrated 8 years, August 22nd. So,
and I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
And it's not always easy.
No.
You know, and I still have to do the daily reprieve every day. You know, I read out of the big book. I read the Bible. I read the things that I need to read to center myself, right? Yeah. I do panels. I go to meetings. I'm of service. I have sponsees, you know? And it's like the moment I start not wanting to go or veering off, I get in it harder.
Yeah.
You know, I have, my daughter asked me a long time ago, promise me you'll never use again. And I said, I can't promise that.
Yeah.
And she goes, why? I'm like, I can't promise that. But what I can promise is that I'll do everything I did from day one, every day. And if I do that, I'll stay sober, you know? And so that's what I promise her, you know? That 9 months of no boys that Connie gave me became something I gave myself. You know, about a year into sobriety, I found God put in my life a man who we became friends, and then, you know, became more than that, but took it super slow. And this guy I'm married to today has never called me out of my name, has only been respectful, honest, encouraging, loving, truthful, even when I don't want to hear the truth.
So you're not impossible to love.
Right. He showed me like I'm not incapable, you know? And it's because I gave myself that year.
Yeah.
You know? And it's because like God put the women in my life that I needed to be there to teach me who I was, right? I know my favorite color today. I know who I am as a woman. You know, I'm strong in myself, right? Like I can conquer and do anything.
No, I truly believe that for you as well.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to the addict that's listening to this, trying to find some glimmer of hope?
Get in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Start going to one meeting every week and get to know those people. You know, start getting a sponsor. Start finding out who you are. You know, I think it all stems from low self-esteem, all of it, you know. And there's trauma, and there's, you know, I suffer from mental illness. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from living on the streets for so long.
Yeah.
I have anxiety disorder, you know, but I'm still able, like, to go to school. I'm going back to college, getting a bachelor's degree, you know. Real quick story is I was always that addict that was at the social services office, you know, give me free GR. I think one time I even said, like, my son lived with me on the street and got, like, cash aid for, like, a month.
Yeah.
And then my ex-husband found out. So I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't want to go to jail. You know? And I work for that office today, you know? It's crazy. And I remember when I got the job, I was like, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. I'm like, but I'm not a fraud.
No, you are who
It's
you
like
are.
who I am today.
And we're so honored to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I hope it made sense.
It made so much sense. It was an incredible story. That's why I wanted you on so bad, was because I've heard your story and it's moved me.
Yeah.
It's moved me greatly. So I know that there's somebody that's watching that can relate to so much of what you said. And because of the valleys that you've experienced, to be who you are, to stand on your own 2 feet, to be in a loving, committed relationship, in a marriage, to have the position that you hold in your work life, to have the quality of humans in your life. You're a grandma. You know what I mean? Like, and that from going from being homeless and on the street to being this really beautiful, wonderful human being and woman, not only to yourself, but to everybody who is in your life as well.
Yeah.
So
that's what I strive, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not a product of our past.
No.
We aren't.
But we are a product of our choices.
Right.
And we get to choose every single day.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
And that's it for another episode of the StraitJacket Podcast. If you or anybody that you love is struggling, go to mentalhealthresource.com, fill out the form, and we'll be in touch. We love you. Bye.